Hi guys, I'm just doing a very quick update on the progress of the inventory system. I've created this inventory example map, and in the AGR examples you can find inside Blueprints an inventory folder right now. I also added Infinity Blade asset pack, which is the props pack. It got a lot of static meshes that could be useful for various inventory examples, even including armors and some interactable chests and other items. What else did I change? I also deleted all the C++ code, so the project no longer will ask you to compile. It will just run under 4.26 without any issues. I removed any plugins that are paid from the project. And yeah, let me jump into this example. So I'll be doing a lot of those tutorial examples from scratch and share them inside the repository. This is just a test project for me internally, but you can play with it yourself. So how it looks like, you have a game mode as usual. Inside this game mode there's a custom character, standard HUD. Only one more additional thing I had to do is make an player state, and this player state is absolutely empty. It doesn't have any code, it doesn't have anything. Like, for some reason, if you have just a player state that is empty, then this player state doesn't have a scene root component for some reason, and it can be used for the inventory. But that's why I made this one. And the character itself is fairly simple. It just has AGR animation master component and AGR inventory, which is a new component. So how it looks like, let's go through the inputs first. Okay, so those are the default inputs for movement that you can find in third-person example or basically any example. And here I just have two extra inputs. One on E is just try pick up, or basically try interact, doing something with objects. And the second one is just showing the inventory widget, which is a very super simple widget. Like you can see, I'm just doing a flip-flop, and on this flip-flop I am showing or not showing the widget itself. So if we go here, this is the show widget. I won't go into details, it's a very simple thing. I'm storing the widget here as well, and inside the widget I have update inventory. So if we go into this function, okay, we have this widget. This widget is just a list, and we are filling this list on this event. So what we are doing, we're clearing the children, we're getting the player pawn of this entire widget. We're getting component by class AGR inventory, because by design we should have only one inventory general manager in the character, but actually we could have more than one container. So yeah, this is just an example setup. And then we're using this function directly from this component, which is AGR inventory, get all items. So we're getting all items that belongs to this inventory, and then we're saying how many items there are in the inventory, and we are just adding additional widget, which is just UI item. It's a super easy, small widget that just have a miniature, name, stack count, and a separator, and that's it. I'm not very good with UI, so my apologies, it will not look good. Getting back here in the character itself, this is the widget. Now let's go into interaction. Okay, so we got two functions we should go through. So one is running on tick, and it's only running on local controlled player. So on local controlled player we're doing a forward trace of the camera for 400 units, and the spring arm is 200, so this is like 200 units in front of the character. And we're just checking for word static, word dynamic, and we're doing by channel. So the trace channel is inventory. By default everything blocks inventory, but we can use any other channel really. It can be visibility or camera or whatever you need inside your project. I just want to have a special channel that maybe for some reason I want some items to ignore, specifically to ignore this channel. And then if we have a hit, we are setting pickup actor from this hit actor, and if we don't have a hit, we are invalidating the pickup actor. And then On the input of pickup, so on E, we are trying to pick up doing this function. And from this function, we're doing a server side only because this is a reliable run on server event. So on server side, we are checking if the distance to the item is less than 200 units. Let's say 250 just in case. And we're checking if our actor that we are trying to interact with has this tag AGR item. And so if it has this this tag, then we can go forward and do some more stuff. But we can also do another check. So for example, we can check ownership of the of this item we're trying to interact with. So we can get the component by class, which is AGR item, and this is a component for pickable items. And we can get owner's ID, and we can see if it's valid. And we, for example, could pick up an item that doesn't have an owner, or we can actually get our inventory component. We can get ID, and we can check if we are the owner of this particular item, like this. So I've just added a few of those stuff I'm not using, just to show you how easy it is to do additional server checks. Okay, so if we are in distance and this actor is AGR item, and then we go into true, so try pickup item. Oh, you know what? Actually, it should go like this, because we are checking the distance always. And we are checking if it is an item here. So if it is an item, so it has AGR item, and basically it will have this tag if it has this component. All you have to remember is to add the component, and it will manage the tags, and it will manage everything internally. Then we go directly into our inventory, try pickup item, and this should be called on the server. So we are on the server side, everything is correct. If we run it on the client, we'll just go and have a bad time because the items won't be registered and it will always fail. So if we are running it on the server, we are trying to pick up item, and in our example, it will always succeed because our inventory doesn't use max weight, volume, or items. So we can pick up infinite number of items. So it always succeeds, and then we're running this update inventory HUD on owning client. So updating inventory HUD is just getting the HUD reference, checking if it's valid, if it's in viewport, and if it is, then it's updating the items. If it's not, then it's no point even doing that. So we're doing this, and if this item doesn't have this AGR item tag, it means that it's something else that we're trying to interact with. So I created this inventory example interface, which is just one function. And if this object implements this inventory example interface, if it's true, then we're using gather function. And gather is referring inventory and owner of the inventory to that object. And that's it. Now, if we go directly into our components, AGR item is very simple. On begin play is just adding this AGR item tag, so we can use this tag to check if this object can be picked up, if the owner can be picked up. However, we can also use it to get all actors of class with tag, or even matching tag query, and we can specify this tag and particular class, but we can, for example, say that the class is actor, and now we can get from a scene all items in all that you can interact with, and for each of them you can do some filtering, and we can do some additional stuff, or we can filter by hand, for example checking the owner of those items. So you can always use this. And besides that, it just got few variables that we are checking. So if the item is stackable, what's the actual stack right now on this item, what's the maximum stack count. We have owner ID, which is replicated. We have inventory ID, which is replicated. It's matched by the inventory itself. And we have item display name, which is just text value that we can read inside user interface. And then we have the capacity, which is just three information about what's the weight of the single stack of this item, what's the volume of single stack of the item, because we can track three things: weight of our inventory, volume of our inventory, and we can limit both of them. And all items have X, Y, vector 2D, which is the size inside the inventory. If you want to have a grid-based inventory, you can use this value to specify where inside the inventory this item is currently residing, and checking if we have any free space to fit such a big item inside our inventory. So this is just the item. That's all I've created right now. You can easily extend it further, add your own variables, and you can add an interface, because this is just an actor component. So this actor component can do anything you need it to do. And by the way, yeah, it shouldn't be tickable because it doesn't serve any purpose. And same here, it shouldn't tick. Yeah, and it's obviously replicated. So this is managing just the item, and whatever item you want, it just have to have this component, and then you say that it's stackable. What's the average, like the default value? If you spawn a new item, how much does it has inside the stack? You can obviously change that at runtime, but this is the default. And then it's saying what's the display name and what's the max stack, and the weight, volume, and size of the item. I haven't set them up for many items because I haven't used the limits yet. But getting back to the inventory itself, let's go to event graph. Inside the event graph, the only thing we're doing, it's saying that if we are on begin play, if we are server, then we are setting notification. Oh, and by the way, get owner. This should actually be done here on begin play. Okay. Okay. So we're just checking if our owner is a character. If it is a character, then we're doing different functions than if it is not a character. When it is not a character, it is not a character when the owner is, for example, a container, like a box, a crate, or anything else, right? Or a backpack, whatever. So we just need to be able to see if he is a character. And then on update of this UI, we're just doing a shout out to check if our IDs match on multiplayer, and that's it. And then we have a lot of functions who are just functions, not events for once, and some setups. So inventory ID is being randomized on begin play, but we can also save it, so we don't have to randomize it always. If it is loaded, then it will override the randomness. We're checking debug. This is just for prints and other stuff. Max weight, max volume, max items, and do we use any of those values? And no more configuration for the inventory itself. Any inventory capacity, like having a grid X and Y, it has to be managed by the UI itself. So the inventory is not checking if it can fit an item. You will have to tell the inventory that it can or cannot fit an item. It can, however, check and track those three values, and having a grid based is a bit more complex and a bit more related to the user interface itself. So from our functions, we just have few functions. So we have try pickup item, and try pickup item is just checking if this item has our AGR item component. If it is valid, then it's a success, and if it's a success, then we're just storing this item in component reference, and then we're doing some stuff. So if the item is stackable, we are adding stacks, and this add stacks function is acting differently if we haven't had this item in the inventory before, and differently if we already have it in the inventory. So if we pick up a very big stack, it can create new items in the inventory, or it can just update the stacks that we have already. Any stackable item should not be changed at runtime. It should be a resource, it should be something that as an actor stays the same the entire gameplay and is just being consumed on the stack level. However, if an item is not stackable, it can be vastly different at runtime. It can be it can have attachments, it can have different values that you are changing at runtime. So going back here, if it's not stackable, we're just doing this raw add to inventory and raw update inventory reference. And then if there is no owner, we're doing this raw update ownership. However, I already did it inside, so we can do it like this. Always do this raw update of ownership. And this always ends as a success, really. Okay, so this is it. So let's go now to add to inventory. It's fairly simple. It depends if we are a character or not. So if we are a character, we are adding the item statically as hidden with no collision to our player state. So player state is a very specific blueprint because it is always relevant. So as long as a player exists, player state exists on the session, and it is not moving or rotating. So any attached actors to this actor are not moving or rotating as well. However, if we are just a container, we are just adding to this container those invisible actors. So if the container is moving, because it can be moving, it's moving all the items inside the container. So you have to watch out not to make too many items inside a container, and definitely limit a container in size. And getting back here, what else do we have? Update inventory reference. That's fairly simple. We're just adding some tags and we are updating the component by class. And then we are also updating ownership, which is setting owner, instigator, and ID on the component as well. And then we have also get all items. Get all items will just get, we're checking if our player, owner as player is valid. So we are inventory of a player pawn. So if we are, then we are getting the player state. And from that player state, we're getting all attached actors. And then we're checking their component by class. And if it is valid, we're checking the inventory ID of that item, because our player might have multiple inventories. So we're checking only items that belong to this particular inventory. And then we're adding it to this local variable inventory. And we're doing the same for non-character. We're just getting all actors of class with tag AGR item. So all actors. All items on the map that we have currently, and this is a fairly fast query. And remember that we're not getting all items on tick. This is used not very often, and it's usually used only on local player. So then we're doing a query, and we're getting we're also checking inventory if it matches the inventory that we are in right now. And then we are returning this temporary inventory array. Now, add stacks, we already went through it. This is also spawning new items if necessary of that class. And I am using this with success in multiple, like in functions that I call outside of the inventory itself. So let me show you a few of the examples. Like we already went through this. This is everything. Like this is new functionality for interacting with items. And let me show you how it works first. So it's play standalone. It will be like this. Okay, we got this guy. You can see his line trace. for the items, and we can go to those items, and we have, I can open inventory, it's empty, so I don't see anything. You can see all items 0 in the top left corner. And if I open an item, pick up an item, now you have inside our inventory some wood, 35 out of 100. And then I can pick up another one, and now I have 112. So I pick up 2 actors, and I have 2 actors in the inventory because they stacked. And then we have a third actor, which is simulating physics, by the way, so I can move it. And I can pick it up. And it just stacked with the previous one. And I can now pick up some stone. And I have now 4 items. So those are just items. The items that I can pick up, drop, and anything. But inside many games, you interact with objects that are just word objects. Like here, this is all foliage. And you interact with foliage, and this foliage gives you resources. And those resources, they don't resemble in anything the tree of itself, right? What I want wood, and wood is just a log. So what I have here, I can interact with this tree, and if you look at my wood, it's 135, 141, then I keep on gathering until I deplete the tree completely. And then it got destroyed. And the rocks, they just got picked up immediately, and they get destroyed immediately. Like this. So yeah, I can just go around, pick up objects, and you can see that they start stacking when they go like overboard with how many I have picked up currently. And does it work in multiplayer? Of course it works in multiplayer. Let me show you. And interesting. Okay, is valid has to be first, and then it has to go here. That's quite obvious. Okay. Okay. So let me show you a multiplayer. Let's go 2, and let's say it's a dedicated server. So let's play here. And you will see only one of my guys, obviously. So he'll just stand here, and then I will go into my second window. And in my second window, I can go here. I can pick up some wood. I can pick up all those stones on the ground, and they disappear. I can interact with the foliage, and it will adjust properly. I can just start gathering, and I can, for example, gather this tree, only half of it, and then I can go back here. I can run here. I can like pick up this stone, and I have stone. I can go here, and now I can pick up this wood. Okay. So yeah, just like this. And let me show you this guy's inventory. So this guy, like, he cannot drop stuff yet, but he will be able to in a second. It's really soon. I'm just working on it. Okay, and wood. Okay. So yeah, how this is being set up. Let me show you. Let's make one standalone. I still have to work on it a bit. But in general, inside the AGR examples blueprints inventory, you have this example interface, you have the example UI, and you have those gatherable and items. So items are just stone and wood, and those are exactly what you would expect them to be. So this is wood, it has few event dispatchers inside of the component. So those are the event dispatchers. So when it's picked up, it's not simulating. When it's dropped, it's being dropped 100 units in front of the owner, and it is simulating physics and nothing else. And inside the component, you just have 1 out of 100 and name wood and saying that it's stackable. And same goes for the stone, so I don't have to show it, it's exactly the same. What is important is those gather balls. So I made 2 different BPs, one for the rock and one for the example tree. The rock is easier. The rock simply implements the interface, and it's saying that it is just adding stacks of given class item to the inventory itself, and that's it. The item is not editable outside of the BP, and I don't care if it's replicated or not, because what I needed to do is to work only on the server, like you can see here. And we're just getting this class BP stone, which is different than BP rocks, right? So the rocks is just a physical representation here of an object, and I can just place this actor anywhere. I can do with it as I like, and I can even scale it. Doesn't really matter, it will always behave the same. And then from this rock I have foliage actor type, and foliage actor type got just a set of settings for, well, foliage, and I can use it as foliage inside my foliage editor. And what it will do instances of this actor, and it will only instance variables that are instanced, and it will not change the number of draw calls based on how many actors I have in the scene. So this rock is just I think just one draw call, and doesn't matter how many of those tracks I have, they are separate blueprints, but they are just one draw call. And this actor should as well not be ticking at all. He doesn't need it. The tree is a bit more complex example. It has to be ticking because I'm doing some stuff here, and this is really irrelevant, so let's just do it like this. Oh, and total supply, it should be just replicated. I don't need this function, and then we're doing this. Okay, so here we have total supply of 60 on this tree, and gives is an internal value, so it's not exposed and it's not replicated. And we have stack per use, which is how many wood we are gaining per one use of this tree. So we have total of 60, and we gather 6 per one click. So on the server, we're taking the inventory, and depending of our total supply being bigger than stacks per use. So if this would be like 8, this would be like 8, it will not divide perfectly for this 60. So on the last click, it will give us less resources. So this is just this. And when our total supply hits 0, then we are just adding a destructible component, applying damage to it so it destroys. We're destroying the static mesh component, and after 5 seconds we are destroying the entire actor. So this will work, the destructible component, this part will work only on single player. So if I say play standalone, I go to a tree. Oh, why it didn't happen? Let me see. No, you could see, yeah, I can interact with those items. I can't gather more wood out of it because it's already depleted, but for some reason, let me see, example tree. Destructible component. Oh, okay. That's why it didn't happen. Okay, sorry about that. So let's see now. I created this destructible tree for a reason. Yeah, so now this happens. And we can just destroy those trees. I wonder if I could manage to make it working on multiplayer, maybe? Oh, never mind. I will test it later on. If it works on multiplayer, I will update on the repository a multiplayer version of this tree. But it works. The gathering works on multiplayer, and that's it. And this tree also is a tree actor foliage, so it's an actor foliage type. And yeah, just static foliage that is instance, and it cost us only 2 draw calls. Yeah, 2 draw calls for each of those trees all together. And even though it is instance, I can move it. It is casting shadows. It has collision. I can do anything I need with it, and it will still work. Yep, so I got 120 wood, 2 times 60. I can pick up all those items. Like those wood on the ground, I by hand entered the component and then I just checked how much there is in the stack. I could actually even go above the max stack, which I should never do, but I can. Let me show you. Oh, wait. Let's copy the entire actor. And inside this actor, let's say 333. Now if I pick up this log, I will actually have 333, but I will have 4 actors, and I can interact with those 4 slots independently inside my inventory. So I shouldn't go above the limit, but I can if I need to. If, for example, I have a stackable inside a container, I might merge multiple actors into one for performance reasons. So yeah, this is the inventory. The inventory is very performant. It works absolutely great. You can still access the full blueprint of all the items you have inside your inventory. You can add attachments. You can, reload the magazines. You can do whatever you need to do with those items. You can craft with them. You can destroy them. You can drop them. You can give them to another player. You can trade them. And I will do a lot of examples like this. A lot of examples that are mechanics copied from different games for this inventory, and I will keep on updating the inventory, so hopefully you will find it useful. Just a quick update to the showcase example. I've updated the UI. It now updates a lot better on multiplayer and is a lot more responsive and updates always reliably, only on the owner. And I managed to make destructible meshes working on multiplayer. So now all actors will see those trees getting destroyed like this inside multiplayer. And you can see my inventory updated. Yeah, so have fun with the project, guys, and see you on Discord.